All right, we are live. Hello, hello, and welcome everyone to our first edition of Community Conversations. And this one's going to be all about getting to know Dr. Joshua Hayes and learning more about his run for mayorship. I don't know if that's the right word to say, mayorship, but we want to answer several of your questions here today. So if you are watching in live with us, please definitely join along. Please feel free to share this video out so others can participate. I do apologize. We're running a couple minutes late here with some technical difficulties, but now we're here. And that's what's important to spend some time. We showed up to spend some time here with you to answer the important questions that you've been asking, wanting to know what the plans are for our community, what Josh stands for. I think it's more important to hear it straight from the person versus, just reading things online. There's power in having conversation. So that's what this is all about. So I'm so thankful that you decided to allow us to set up these community conversations.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Awesome.
Thank you so much for helping us with this.
I love it. So Josh, I know you have been running now. When did you decide to run for office?
We actually entered the race. We announced candidacy on July 1st. And so, we've been actually running this race for quite a while. July, August, September, October, for 4 months, we were the only announced, campaign. And so we've been, running, holding the flag, and, we're still moving. We got good legs right now.
That's good. Yeah, I was at an event you were doing last night where I got to hear something a little firsthand about your background of why you wanted to run. And I think it's really important for others to maybe hear that story. So tell me a little bit about your background.
Yeah. So I grew up here in Lima. I went to Perry High School. So I graduated in 2002. I did some undergraduate school up at Bowling Green, where I eventually graduated with a degree in biology. And then I had some time where I was in the Army. So I spent some time in the military. I did my chiropractic school in St. Louis, where I lived for 4 years. And then I came back to Lima. So I've been back here for 10 years now. And one of the things, as a practicing chiropractor, working with patients and seeing, people from all different backgrounds. One of the things that's really cool is I always joke with people that I always get a view behind the curtain. People kind of come in and they tell me everything. I have, very, close kind of relationships with a lot of people in the community. So I have a good ear to what's going on. And I just found that, I realized and started to understand that, people are suffering in our community, and it's something that, we can help people, in the office and, one-on-one. But really, if we want to change what's going on in our city, we have to change the environment. Yeah. And we have to really, improve the quality of life. And really establish foundational wellness for, people in our community, for us to realize, some of the answers to the problems that we've been dealing with for a long time.
And that makes perfect sense. I know I'm one of those people that have come in, and you put on a good face when you're out in the community, and then, you're hustle bustle. But then when you come in, you're just like, oh my God, I'm hurting. I've been struggling to keep up. And I think that's honestly kind of a good metaphor for a lot that's been going on in the community from what I heard about your background. And even some of the story that I heard, the tanks that actually are made here in Lima, you were a part of. Yeah, driving those. What was that?
Yep.
What was that about?
So I was in the local Ohio Army National Guard unit here in Lima. So we actually drove those tanks. We drove and shot the tanks. We would go to Fort Knox, and that's where I did my basic training. Was in Fort Knox, Kentucky. So I was trained on the M1A1, the M1A2 tanks, and that's what I did. When I started in the Army, that's what I did.
So, nice.
Yeah.
I always wanted to know what it'd be like to drive those tanks, but definitely did want to do what you were doing in the war for sure. And again, we're having this conversation. So I hate that we're looking at each other, we're in this conversation because we want you to be involved too. So definitely please ask us your questions that you have as we go along. We want to give you a little backstory. We're going to get to the good stuff, those questions that you have, but I thought we'd set the stage a little bit more about Josh. If you haven't been one of those patients that have got to know him and share some of those details with him on just how you feeling about the community, or maybe heard him speak somewhere. So, I know, Josh, you had mentioned you started the chiropractic business. And so we are sitting in that business now.
Yeah.
This is in Shawnee area?
Yep, here we are. Yep, we're at One River Collective here in Shawnee. And so I've been practicing for 10 years now. I was just telling somebody the other day, we were talking about how hard it is to start businesses and, how difficult it is, to make up and, to stay with it. And, for me, this is kind of, it's either an expensive hobby or a ministry. I haven't figured out exactly which one yet, but I love helping people. I love, working closely with people, developing strong relationships with them. And, one thing that I think that really makes a big difference, and that's the first thing with patients is, they've really got to know that you care about them. And I think that breaks down walls, because, you may look different than them or you may have different ideas, but when people understand that you're in it for them, they can look past some of those things and they can see like, okay, this is a real person. This is somebody that wants to help me.
Take time to get to know them.
Yeah.
Right. Like thank you, Jason, for putting this comment in here. It actually leads perfectly into the next question, because I love that you said you care. And so I know there's been some media questions about where you live. So, where do you live for the record?
Okay. So just so everybody knows, where I live, since I've been back from St. Louis in 2010, I actually resided in Shawnee, and since then in 2019.
Does it say Shawnee, Ohio too?
It says Lima, Ohio on my address. Gotcha. Yeah, it absolutely says Lima, Ohio. But I was in the Shawnee Township, and since 2019, I've actually been working on renovating a home. And a lot of people really know where this home is, and
I heard a lot of talk about it yesterday at the Met. There was a group of people, and they're like, "Oh my gosh, you renovated! They renovated this house." They're excited when they've been driving by. So there's some receipts on these claims. I'm just saying.
So this old house, we did the roof in 2019. And it's a beautiful old home, and it's right over on North Main Street, and so I'm very, very close to St. Gerard's church, and I get to hear the church bells ring every morning at 8 o'clock and 8:15, and that tells the kids that they need to be in school, and it tells me I need to have my ass out of bed. That's a good way to wake up. That's when you can't snooze. You can't snooze the church bells. Okay. So this is I definitely live in the city. I want to quell all those rumors and all those things. I live over on Main Street. So if anybody wants to, hit me with the hashtag Mayor on Main, we're going to make sure that everybody knows that not only do I live in the city, but I live downtown. I live on Main Street, and I live, in a very important and, very happening spot, right on the corner of Robb Avenue.
Actually, the address is right on this page if you guys ever want to look.
Yeah, absolutely.
Make sure that Josh is up at 8:15. I'm just saying. No, but Josh, your journey has led you to growing this business. And I love the practice that you practice what you preach. One, getting back to healing the person, right? And starting at the center. And that's kind of letting some of these things roll off your back and being, okay, it's kind of funny. I actually care so much that I did move downtown, because I know, even though my address is Lima, Ohio, the technicality, we need to make sure we're in the city. So that's something I'm willing to commit to.
Absolutely.
Show up, actually do the work, move, bring my kids and do that work. So I know that was one of the big things that has come up.
Yeah, and I did my research. I read the city charter. I knew what I needed to do to be eligible, to be a candidate for mayor in Lima, Ohio, and that's what we did, and we made that happen. Because we wanted to, be within all the rules. So there's no way that anybody could, say that this person isn't qualified, and I absolutely am. So
yeah, absolutely. The background kind of all facets. I think running a business and having children, and as well as, just getting into some of the events and things that you've done here, you're getting ready to do a Cannabis Symposium, which that's sometimes brought up some controversy, right? And there was some articles even being even though this wasn't about you, we're going to make it about you. So maybe let's just address that too, because I know my goal is just, instead of letting people, kind of hearsay, let's tell the story.
And that's one thing that, I think people are going to find with me, that I'm very transparent. I've lived kind of, in the spotlight for a little while already, knowing people, having relationships with people. Sometimes people are interested in my life, for whatever reason, but it's here,
different.
it's here. Yeah. I'm an interesting person, I guess. But as far as that goes, I really enjoy, working with people, and when I started this practice here, I was really focused into physical, treating physical pains. And one of the things that I found is so many of, the physical pains are rooted in thought patterns, subconscious thought patterns. And so for me, it's just like bringing that new mindset. And as far as myself and my personal journey, I've found cannabis to be something that is very healing for me medicinally. I've found that, and for me, it was I think it was back in probably around 2005 that I had a serious injury when I was in the Army. And I went through the whole medical model. I basically had a blank check, to get better. They were paying for all of my health care. I was active duty at that time. I was down in Fort Bliss, and they were paying for all my health care. And I got so frustrated that they couldn't get me better. They kept giving me pills, and that's one thing that I always tell people. I was very fortunate that my doctor didn't follow me home from Fort Bliss, because I feel like that, I could have, been, addicted, or become addicted to those pills, just like many, many other people have.
And that's the crisis that we have right here in our community.
Yeah. And that's really what's going on in our community. That's what they're giving people for pain relief. And that's what they're giving people, to help them, get through healing events. Mm-hmm. And it's just really not the best medicine. So
I don't think it's ill-intended. I do want to say that. Like, I think definitely people are in pain. They're just like you. We're in pain.
They want something.
And you need to treat, like, unfortunately, when you're in pain, you just go for the quickest, like, fix my symptom. Mm-hmm. And what I'm hearing you say, and what I heard you say before, is like, okay, let's not necessarily just look at the symptoms. Let's look at the cause. Mm-hmm. Because if we're never going to change by just ridding people of the solution that they're currently getting to fix the fix the symptom, mm-hmm. but if we can fix the ailment, mm-hmm. or help, the ailment a little bit, then you don't necessarily have to mm-hmm. just keep prescribing the same solution
Absolutely.
Again.
And that's one thing. And that's one thing with cannabis, and, the studies, being, 2021 now, the studies have shown so much that mm-hmm. it's great for inflammation. It's great for pain relief. Mm-hmm. It's great for insomnia, anxiety, depression. It's good for cancer. It's good for Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, all these fibromyalgia, all these neurological mm-hmm. diseases, all these diseases that, people said that, are caused by things like marijuana or cannabis. Mm-hmm. And we're now seeing studies that are showing that, wow, this is great medicine for these types of things. And so I'm a big proponent for cannabis. I have been for years and years.
You've been open about that.
I've been in the newspaper before, talking about CBD, and really making sure that, standing up for my patients' rights, being an activist for natural medicine. And so, for something, like this, for them to talk about this in the news is really, kind of an old story. But there was an incident here in Lima in 2019. I believe, where I was a passenger in a vehicle. The vehicle was pulled over, and I had a pipe with me and a little bit of cannabis, and I was charged. I was written a ticket. The Lima News said I was arrested, but I was not. I was issued a citation, and upon receiving that citation, I went to court. I pled not guilty, and those charges were dismissed by the prosecutor's office. They were dismissed, and the city of Lima actually had to pay court costs on that incident. And so that was one of the incidents that they spoke about in the newspaper. The prior incident,
because you have a medical marijuana license.
I have I have a medical marijuana card from a doctor, from a licensed physician here in the state of Ohio. So, not only am I, a medical cannabis user, medical cannabis patient, but I also have, licensure from a doctor to make it legal for me to have it. And then, there was another incident, from 2016, which is 5 years ago now. And I was returning from cross country. I was out in North Dakota, and I was actually coming home, and I was pulled over in Minnesota. And I had some cannabis on me. I had about a week's worth of my medicine on me, and they charged me with possession of cannabis. And the news actually reported that I was convicted of a felony, and that is not true. That's completely false. I was not convicted of any crime. What actually happened in Minnesota is that I was issued a stay of adjudication by the judge. And so what that means is that the judge puts you on a probationary period, and after that probationary period, as long as everything goes okay, those charges are actually dismissed. And so my incident that I had in Minnesota, I was placed on a probationary period, which I qualified on, and I did just fine with, and those charges were dismissed. Yeah. And so those are some things that.
So if you had a felony, are you allowed to still practice?
You can, yeah. Oh, okay. You absolutely, you could still practice.
Yeah.
That's governed by the state of Ohio board. But that's something that, the Lima News, reported, and really didn't care to, reach out to me and find out the real truth on it. They told me that they received a tip, and that's what they wanted to put in the news. And so I told them next time he receives a tip that they can call me first, and we can clear up and make sure that they know the whole story about things.
So. Yeah. That's a little scary. You can get a tip, like a text message or something.
Yeah. I don't know. I guess they can just print whatever they want without knowing the whole thing.
Yeah. But, I'm thankful that you are open and willing to share, and
Absolutely.
I think all candidates, or anyone for that matter, should be able to say.
And one of the things that, we're going to continue to talk about cannabis. We're going to talk about cannabis here in Lima. I've actually been working on an ordinance, collecting the signatures. We spent most of November out collecting signatures for an ordinance it's called the Sensible Marijuana Ordinance. And what it is, it's a citywide ordinance that we submit to the city council. And what it does is it's a proposition to eliminate all criminal penalties for misdemeanor cannabis possession, misdemeanor cannabis crimes in the city of Lima. And so this is called Sensible Marijuana Ordinance. It's already been passed in at least 14 to 15 other cities in the state of Ohio. And what it does is it just allows people to, be able to use cannabis as medicine, and to be able to use cannabis without fear of being prosecuted under the county and the city laws, because we're going to change the laws a little bit.
And that's good. It's because I think there is such a stigma or mindset, because we are so used to kind of the one way it's bad, right? But no, it's just going to take some time to do your own research, right? If you're not sure, do your own research. But if you already know, right?
And really, I tell people, if it's not for you, it's not for you.
Yeah.
Nobody has to.
Selling it.
Nobody's being forced to. Nobody's being forced to use it or anything like that. And it's. But what people need to consider and understand, and this will end up going on the ballot. This will end up most likely being on the ballot in November, for the Sensible Marijuana Ordinance for Lima, Ohio. And when I called to get information on, how to do this petition and how to put in a new ordinance for the city of Lima, they told me that this was probably the first time that a new ordinance has been proposed in the city of Lima in 25 years.
Wow.
So we're making some moves, we're doing some things. And one of the things that, I could talk about this topic.
Well, I was going to ask you, I want to definitely get to some questions, but I love that you're passionate and you stand on what you believe. And that's definitely one of your issues. But I definitely see your questions in here. So thank you guys so much for
thank you.
Engaging. Amy says #Mayor on Main, and some others like that. So thank you. Thank you, Jason, for your question that sparked this. I appreciate you. Vandalia Rental, good to see you on here. Amy Groves, good to see you. So all of you for your support and your questions. We're definitely going to get to as many as we can in our time period. But don't worry, if we don't answer your question here right now today, we're going to be doing these series every Thursday at 7 p.m.
Yep.
Okay,
7 p.m.
every Thursday at 7 p.m. And it's not only going to be Josh, he's going to bring other people in from the community to talk about these community conversations and get your feedback. So I know jobs is a big thing, and business, right? And just crime and lots of things that we all care about as citizens. So we want to make sure we're having these open conversations, because that's the only place where change is going to happen, not just a hearsay thing and putting it out there in one way, but like having these conversations and dialogue and really hearing each other, I think is super important. So thank you for sharing that. I also want to hear about your other kind of and to share with the community here about your mission for this candidacy, like the things that you stand on.
Mm-hmm.
And as Josh is talking about this, if this does resonate with you, I do want to let you know, we do have something set up pretty cool here to where if you just type in the comments, vote for Hayes, all it's going to do is generate a response back to you in your inbox to where you can find out what his campaign is about. You can sign up to help volunteer. You can donate. You can get a yard sign. It will auto-generate those, how you can get started with that right within your inbox on Messenger. So literally you would just type vote for Hayes, that's it, in the comments, and it'll auto-trigger that to happen for you. So thank you again for asking this, and we'll keep this going. So tell everyone about what your plan is for Lima.
Yeah. So one of the things that I talk a lot about, and when I do present to groups, is we talk about laying a firm foundation for our city. And I think right now, everybody wants to talk about jobs, and and I hear more comments about bring jobs to Lima. But really, I think that we've got to understand that our economy and our jobs and our downtown, that kind of comes after we lay a firm foundation for our people. And so, that firm foundation consists of safe places to live. It definitely consists of access to affordable, nutritious foods, safe natural medicines. These things are really important to just establish that foundational base for people in our community. The next step we kind of look at
well
is
enough to work and yeah.
Right. We ought to have those basic. These are survival things.
Yeah. It's Maslow's hierarchy of needs, right?
Yeah. These are survival things. So these are things that we must have in order to just live and exist on this planet. Mm-hmm. And looking at this, the secondary things is things that we get from like our social services and things like that. But the thing is, instead of creating, more police officers or more doctors, if we can firm this foundation and make this our focus, then we're not going to need more police and more doctors. We're going to see that kind of come into balance a little bit. And I really think that, and we kind of used this analogy yesterday, planting the seed, tending to the garden, and then you're going to get your produce, your vegetables, your fruits. And I think that that's where our economy, and our jobs, that's where that comes from. When we do a good job setting that firm foundation, nourishing and nurturing our people, through our social services, and then we're going to see the fruits of our labor. But this have to be there first before this happens.
Yeah, I loved you. So last night at the Met, you were talking about that kind of analogy, right? The metaphor of that. And you had just the community that was there mention about things they loved about Lima and things that we could be doing better. And then how did we think that we could be doing better, right? And what's available right now. And many people were mentioning, the jobs, right? Or even just small businesses, like making it or starting it or being able to start a business and what that would take. And some people are like, the grants, or there's just not enough funding. And then we ended up coming up with an idea that was free, that was just community, that would actually benefit both parties in just that short period of time of us talking and having those conversations. And I love that you were mentioning like the social service. The answer is not to just put more on them and request more to people to pay into that, but it is really kind of looking at what's the root cause.
What's causing this?
What's causing, not the symptom, but going back to the ailment of really what's causing it. So
what's creating violent crime in our city? What's creating a space that's fostering, addiction, issues, with our families and things like that. And, lifestyle diseases that are coming from malnutrition and things, so we've really got to take into focus, what's happening in our city and then what's causing it. And that's really, sometimes those are way, those are two different things all the time.
Yeah. I 100% agree with you there. There was a question about arts in Lima. I know that you mentioned quite a bit about that as well on here, of just like you kind of, what's your involvement with the arts, or what would you love to see in Lima?
I would love to see the beautification of our city. I think that there could be nothing more artful than a beautiful city, with neighborhoods and, houses that look aesthetically appealing, that have good curb appeal. I would love to see, many of our blighted buildings, either renovated and, turned into something new and different, or removed so we can have, a place where something new can come into that place. So as far as art goes, I think it's really the lifeblood of a city. I've lived in some very artful cities. I loved being in St. Louis. The music scene there was awesome. The food scene was awesome.
It's like life follows it, right? Like,
yeah. When you get that vibe right, you get the right people that come in.
Want to come
That attracts people,
and keeps the talent here.
It keeps people here too. Yeah,
because people want to be a part of something. When they're bored, they get in trouble.
Absolutely, and I think that's that's really like how we rebrand our city. We need to brand our city to be something hip and fun and unique. We definitely,
because we have so much talent here.
We have to tell our story. And if we don't tell our story, somebody else will tell it for us. And that's really where the art comes in. I wanted to give a little shout out to my good friend Dennis Hemker with the Lima Mural Project.
I was just gonna say, it's beautiful.
And he's they're really doing some amazing things around the city. We've been working with that group for a few seasons now, but they did the mural out at I Can Celebration Ministries on High Street, on High and Metcalf. They also just finished the one in the late fall and early winter at Our Daily Bread Community Center, and so the soup kitchen there on Central, and so that one just turned out amazing. And so now it's like. It's something when people come to Lima and they say, "Hey, show me around a little bit." These are places we stop at now, and I think it's
and you have so many people come out and volunteer and want to do it. Like that's what's cool. People want it. It's just taking someone that's willing to say, "Let's do it." And so I love this question. I know I think it's one that we can definitely add in our time that we have left. And I do want to read a couple of the comments, but Stephen asked a good question here. If you received $1 million, a grant, mind you, to use for the city any way you wanted, what would you do with it and why?
Wow.
No pressure.
That's like the genie in the lamp.
I know. It's like,
oh my gosh. Well, you know what? First off, we're really going to work hard at bringing that kind of money into our city. You just mentioned yesterday. We're going to have, when I'm the mayor, we're going to have the best grant writer anywhere that we can find. Because our city is a need-based city right now. The state recognizes that, the federal government recognizes that. And if we just stand up and get in line and ask, there's a lot of funds that are already designated for a city just like ours. So some things that we'd really like to do within the city. Starting off, I think if I had $1 million, I'd start a real wellness campaign, in our city. I think that solving some of our food desert problems, would be high priority. Making, safe, nutritious foods accessible, affordable, and available to people in their neighborhoods. I think that would be very, very high priority. I also think that focusing on some of our neighborhoods that need it the most as well. I think that for a long time, in our city, we've kind of forgotten, places, within our city. And I think that, without naming them, we can all know, where some of the places haven't been taken care of. So we've got to allocate those kind of funds, in the right directions. We got to find out, exactly what we need, and talk to people, and allocate those things and, and get them right to people where it needs to be done.
I love that. I know you mentioned that yesterday. So I think that's a really good, because there's $1 million out there right now. It just takes somebody knowing about it, having the vision for what you want to see here, and then following through. I mean, we're seeing it in other communities. So why not Lima, right? Like Finley,
absolutely.
Bell Fountain, like why not us, right? And I love that there's such an amazing, like, young audience of people that are running for mayor right now.
Mhm.
And so that's super exciting. I love that there's so many people that are supporting just thinking outside the box a little bit and answering the question, like, what's the real ailment, not just the symptom that we're all talking about sometimes. So thank you for that. Let's see. I want to just give a couple other people a shout out. Leora, I think that's how you say your name. Donnelly, I am a person who suffers from multiple autoimmune illnesses, and I'm highly sensitive to cannabis, so I'm not a candidate for that type of treatment. What do you have to offer in the city of Lima besides cannabis, the homeless population? So hopefully we answered some of your questions here already. The homeless population in the city is overwhelming. Absolutely, we agree, fixing up to repairing so there is like places for people to live, right? Like affordably. Cannabis law.
That's one of the things that our plan is really for our neighborhoods and our communities is to establish homeowners. We look at the population in the city of Lima, and 48% of the people own their homes right now. 97% of the houses are occupied right now. And so if you want to move to the city of Lima, and this kind of goes back to, what we mentioned at the beginning, if you want to bring jobs and new industry here, you got to have houses available.
Exactly.
And you've got to have clean places for people to live, or people won't bring their business here. They're not going to, move their families and their friends and their employees into neighborhoods that are unsafe. Period. So if we want to attract business, we can do everything we can with the economic development, but if we've forgotten about the neighborhoods and those things that really, really matter to people, then we're not going to attract the people, the businesses that we want here. So looking at, solving these issues, being creative, looking at what other cities have been doing with these, with these kind of issues, with the homeless problems that other cities have been having. And, and to put this into context, Lima does have a homeless problem, but this isn't something that we can't get under control.
Exactly.
We're not out in, California where we have thousands and thousands of homeless people. This is something
here and growing.
This is something that can literally be solved in a year. Building some houses, designating a place, and building some houses and some spaces where we can get people together and we can get people the help that they need, if they choose, to want to live in a community like that, but we've been looking at, tiny home models. And that's something that, we kind of have our own housing task force,
which I love.
And you hear about, the Lima housing task force in the news all the time, but I'm in charge of my own housing task force right now, and we've read, we've really been through the recommendations of the 2019 housing study. And I've combed through the 1987 housing study as well, and it's really amazing, to see how there's very little difference in what the problems and recommendations are from there to now. It's just something that hasn't been taken care of and addressed. And I'll tell you, it's one of the first things in my priority, to take care of, because I think that people matter the most.
Yeah. And you mentioned that in your campaign video about, just Lima as a city in pain. Is that what you meant by that, or what did you mean by that?
Yeah, absolutely. In every way, to look around and to see there's people in our city suffering. There's people in our city going without things that are just foundational things that all humans should have, and, I really think that the government, should be working to create a space that fosters opportunity and growth. A place that people can thrive in. And I think that we have not done that in our city for a long time. There's some people that do really well, and there's some people that don't. And the people in between have been leaving for a long time. And so we see that gap get bigger and bigger. And right now we've got to focus back on nourishing the people, nurturing those that need it the most, and taking
building
care of
community.
those
I think it honestly is a community.
It does.
Thing.
It has to be through community.
Thing. It's not one person like, you solve it for me.
Right. We have to empower people, empower people to work together, create spaces for collaboration, and kind of getting back to, that's one advantage we do have within a city compared to being spread out in the country, is that we live right beside each other. We need to have relationships with people. We need to rely on each other. We need help from each other, to really function as a good unit, even in a block size unit.
Yeah. And I thank you. I know this 30 minutes went way beyond already. It's already 10 minutes over. So we're going to be going every Thursday at 7 p.m. Now until the election. So hopefully you had some of your questions answered.
Mm-hmm.
If not, definitely write, vote for Hayes in the comments here, whether you're watching this live or the replay. It will start inbox into you to submit in any questions, get to the website, get to his points, as well as I'm sure Josh will be checking out the comments here, and your ideas and questions may be used in a next series, because that's the thing, it's community. And I love that you've always been about that. You've been transparent. You've been traveling and looking for ideas and learning. Like I know you were just in Bell Fountain meeting with Jason Duff and asking him how it's done. You don't expect to have it all figured out, but you're wanting to learn, and you already have so many great ideas.
We're taking action.
We're
taking action on great ideas.
I love that.
And I think that's something that that we found for a long time is, meeting after meeting after meeting with no action and no results. I'm somebody that, definitely, knows that I don't have to have it all figured out before I take that first step, and I think that we need a leader like that in our city, somebody that can, move forward, and to move forward by faith, and to know that, we're going to be able to, find exactly what we need to solve the problems that we intend to, as we move forward in those things.
Well, so. I'm excited.
Me too.
I want to see some more artists coming down. I want more places that look really cool to take kids to, and just the plan overall. I mean, I know that stuff is kind of fun, but really the plan of healing, because I know you've done incredible things for me with my healing journey. So thank you for that. And thank all of you for participating. Again, remember, vote for Hayes in the comments. It'll start a trigger in your inbox to get involved if you would like to, or drop your questions in here and follow along. We'll be back here next Thursday at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time.
All right. Thanks, you guys. Everyone. Appreciate it.